Hey Titanic listeners, and welcome to episode 1 of the very different sounding season 2 I all promised you. Now, I have warned you profusely that there is going to be adult language in this season, and I am not holding back trying to be Miss Professional Titanic know-it-all. This season, we are diving into Titanic 2022, Titanic on TikTok, the Titanic community, the Titanic gatekeeping, all of the things that are going on behind the scenes on the social media platforms. So, strap in, bitches. I'm about to sit down with Arron Flanangan, who you know from Time to Talk Titanic, or Instagram's Titanic artist. He and I are ready to sit and spill that tea on the Titanic community in episode 1 of season 2. Let's get into it.
Right now, because I love what you're saying. Okay.
So yeah, I didn't know what my mission statement was in terms of starting a podcast. Never thought I'd have one. Never thought I'd be doing a podcast, but here we are. But I knew that I wanted it to be fun. And part of what was taking the fun out of it wasn't doing the research, because I kind of do that anyway.
Right.
You know, if you're sitting reading apologies, my laptop decided to scream at me.
It just went, hey. It was like,
it did. I acknowledge its existence and I'm moving on. But yeah, so the research, you know, we kind of do that passively anyway. You know, when we're reading an article because it's about Titanic, we're going to read it, you know, or a book, or we watch documentaries. So the research just kind of happens. That's fine. But then there was something about, you know, we would decide, so Louis was kind of just me and him to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
And we would say, right, what we're going to talk about next week or in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And we would choose a topic. But then if it was a topic that neither of us were very clued up on, there was this onus to really go and do your homework.
Mm-hmm.
But we've got lives, we've got jobs, you know, we've got things that we need to do. So all of a sudden it felt like the fun of having a podcast had been removed, and it felt like pressure not only to, in the space of a week, become an expert on what you're going to talk about, but to make sure that you recite it accurately. Because if someone listens to it and says, oh, by the way, you got that wrong. So I was like, I'm not an expert, would never claim I'm an expert. And also, I don't want to be. And I don't want to be an educator, because that's a lot of pressure.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of pressure.
Yeah.
So then I thought, well, what am I then? If I'm not, you know, I can be educating kind of on top of whatever I'm doing, but then I was like, what do I want to be doing?
Yeah.
And kind of like you were just saying, I think before we hit record, you know, the name of your podcast, I looked at the name of mine, you know, Time to Talk Titanic, and I was like, well, who am I talking to?
Right.
And I thought, I've made so many friends on Instagram mainly, also, you know, Facebook, by joining different Titanic groups. And I was like, well, why don't I bring them into it? You know, and do what we do anyway, but do it and record it.
Right.
And that's kind of, so it's gone from being me and Louis, then Louis kind of had to dip out, then it was just me,
Mm-hmm.
to now it's like a group of us, and we just have a laugh. But in having a laugh and talking about Titanic, you know, people listening to it, you know, it's kind of become like background noise. So people, if they're drawing, if they're studying, if they're gaming, they can put on, like, I think one of our episodes was like coming on 2 hours or something, or over. It was quite long.
Yeah.
But they can just put it on and they can just listen to a bunch of guys just talking about Titanic. Yeah. And they might learn something, might hear something and go, oh, I didn't know that. Yeah. Or they might listen to us and go, these guys are idiots, and that's fine. But
and that's okay too.
And that's okay.
No, and you're totally right. I mean, like, I came up with Titanic because I was like, oh, I want to like spill the tea on like different facts people might not know. There's, you know, I did it this past anniversary. I've done it for 4 years now. Just being just an annoying human being on Instagram to my friends is how it started. And I found that there was a lot of people that were actually interested in the history of it. And so when, do you know comedian, her name's Caitlin Riley? She's on TikTok and like.
I love
She's a
her.
fucking queen. She's a fucking queen.
My God.
Right. So she made a TikTok last year.
Was it the drunk girl in a club talking to... I couldn't believe, because I'd been watching her for ages before that, and then I went onto YouTube one day, and I was like, no way.
Yes.
Oh.
And so that is why I made my podcast, is because I had 30 plus people texting me, DMing me, all sending it on TikTok, being like, bitch, is this you? This is you. Because that was me and my friend group. Like when I lived in New York, we went out to Brooklyn Cider House before it had closed down. And they had like a raw cider pouring thing. It was fucking amazing. And we went and we got super drunk and ended up walking to this place called Pies and Thighs. And it's literally a place that sells fried chicken and pie. Like, the most Brooklyn thing.
Excellent.
Loved it. So we go there and we're sitting there, we're waiting for the waiter, and I'm just like sitting in and out with like fading in and out. And at one point I was like, hey, did you guys know? And then I just started talking about all the random Titanic stuff. And this is with my childhood best friend Kirsten and her husband Danny, who they were my first episode on the first season of Titanic. And they were like, what the fuck? Like, why do you know these things? And I was like, I love the Titanic. I just like it. And so they sent this to me and I was like, oh my God, I am this person. And I felt like a weird like pressure from social media and people like recognizing this character as somebody I am to create some sort of content of like, not to like stake my claim, but to be like, yeah, I am that bitch and I'm proud of it. Like, I love being that girl. And so that's why I created the podcast. And to your point of like the pressure to get things right and going from talking to Simon Medhurst, who we love dearly, to like not being like, oh my God, like I have to get everything right. I don't want to offend anybody. I don't want to, lean more movie and offend the historian group, and lean more historian and offend the movie group, and share your opinions. And I know you have an experience that I definitely want to get into a little bit later about that, but it's like that pressure sucked. And the internet is in such a culture where people will call you out on your shit and they do not care that you are a human being on the other end of that phone or whatever. I have one review on Apple Podcasts for my podcast, and it's got like 4.5 stars or something, whatever. I don't even care about that. That's not why I created it. I did create it to be like, I am that Titanic girl from Caitlin Riley, who also commented on one of my TikToks I made about the Titanic, and I like lost my shit. I was like, like completely fangirled. I was like,
that's amazing. That is so cool.
She's here in LA, and I guess she does like improv shows with the Groundlings and stuff. And since things are like maskless now and like opening up a little bit more after pandemic, like I want to go there so bad and like be on my podcast. Please be on my podcast, please. Like I love her so much. But the review that I have, whoever this person is so fucking sick of the fact that I was like, I don't fucking like James Cameron. Because I don't. I mean, sometimes I do. I do give him the credit that if his movie did not exist, I wouldn't have been interested in the Titanic because I wanted to go to the movie.
So you like his work, you just maybe don't like him.
I don't like him. I like his work.
Yeah, which is totally fine. And also, like, your opinion.
I think he's such a little tricky bitch. Like, he made the Titanic so that motherfucker could go down there. And also, this season is uncensored. Okay, so that motherfucker could go down
I love how the warning comes, like, minutes into the episode, by the way.
I was like, wait, do you have gin? Are you drinking? Okay.
Yeah.
I do have Jameson in my coffee. It's almost noon, so I feel like it's socially acceptable now.
Yeah, it's almost noon because it took us nearly an hour to resolve our my technical difficulties. That's hilarious.
But that's okay. We're millennials. It's fine.
But yeah, James Cameron, like, he's incredible. He's so smart, but like, he's, as we would say now, he's problematic. He really is. And did Kate Winslet not say that she would never work with him again? Which
Yes. Yeah, like
she
there's
kind
no
of
reason.
she's reneged on, because is she not going to be in the new Avatar film? Pretty sure she's been cast.
Oh.
I could be wrong, but I've heard that she's in the upcoming. I don't think it's like one of the blue alien people. I think she's maybe like a
A
human.
researcher or something.
Yeah.
I hate
So
that movie though too.
do you know? Right. I felt like such an asshole because when I watched it, like not long after it came out, we sat, watched the whole thing. I was very well behaved. I was like, and then it finished. My friend who was like sobbing, she thought it was amazing. She turned to me, she was like, "Did you like it?" And I was like, "I thought the special effects were meant to be like amazing." And she was like, "They were." And I hyperfixated like on this one scene where I think it's when he first turns into the blue, is it Navari?
Uh-huh.
And he stands on the ground and he kind of like moves his foot in the soil, like the mud.
Mm-hmm.
And it, just the way the mud shifted was not realistic.
It was like this.
Like, yeah, there's
Like-
one, and she was
I just
so, my
read
friend
my
was
hands, I forget this.
so mad. She was like, "Really?" She was like, "That one scene ruined it for you?" And I was like, "Yep."
Yeah. Yep.
Yep.
It was the tail plugging in for me. When they plugged their tails into the ground, I was like, "No, bitch, I'm out." I was like, I can't do this.
No, and the way that they kind of like, they do this thing with their hair, but with each other, but then they also do it with their horses. And I'm like, is that not kind of weird? Yeah, like bestiality. Like, I don't like
really have to
that.
put a disclaimer. Welcome to the first episode.
Yeah, so, but yeah, James Cameron is messy. He's pretty messy.
Yeah, and so this person, I'm gonna do a dramatic reading of this
I can't wait.
review because this person was livid, and I remember I got it. I got the review. I think. Oh, how do I even get to my own fucking podcast? I'm not an Apple user. Oh, I have 4.7 stars. Okay. People are still listening to season 1, and I'm like, please stop it. It's not that good. Thank you, but it's making me self-conscious. I have anxiety. So I got it, and I came running out of the bedroom to my boyfriend, and I was like, "Sean, somebody didn't like my podcast," and he was like, "Babe, like, what do you mean? What happened?" I said, "This person went on here and just ripped it apart." So this is what Josephina 84 wrote. She gave me 4 stars though. So like, whatever. This is my one and only review. All right. Titled, "Cameron Isn't the Enemy."
What? No.
Fellow Titanic obsessive here. Really appreciate the motivations behind this pod. I just had to pop in and say, though, that dismissing Cameron and the 1997 movie so flippantly is problematic.
What?
The success of the film is reasonable for a vast majority of related books, docs, artifacts, cultural products since 1997. The accessibility is because of him. Are we talking Jimmy C or Jesus right now? Like, I mean, like, I was like, that's a little like, okay.
Yeah.
Cameron's financing of expeditions to the wreck and even his own dives to it have elucidated? I don't even know that word, and I was almost valedictorian. Elucidated, almost. So much knowledge about the sinking, we would never have known otherwise. I feel like actually that was Bob Ballard.
Yeah.
That was Bob Ballard. Like, okay. No film ages perfectly, but as a historian, parentheses, I have a PhD in American history, who also is a super fan of the movie and studies the ship. I truly believe he knocked it out of the park. And Anyway, I say this with utmost respect. Good luck on the venture, ma'am. There is nothing respectful about writing a giant paragraph of a review on my very first podcast that like was intended for maybe 10 people. Like,
oh my God. Like,
so,
I'm sorry, but yeah, James Cameron has done a lot in terms of bringing Titanic to, you know, the forefront of a lot of people's minds. And
100%.
but I feel like if the film had never come out, there would still be an interest in Titanic. It's, you know, it's interesting to kind of hypothesize this like hypothetical of if the film had never happened, what would it be? But there would still be an interest. There would, of course, there would be, because there are people who, you know, and maybe they're slightly older than you and I, but even if they have seen the James Cameron film, they don't like it. They prefer A Night to Remember, or they prefer the books. You know, they prefer the novel by Walter Lord. So the film isn't the be all and end all for a lot of people. I think it just helped bring a lot more people in. But we need to remember that James Cameron is basically, you know, he's rich. He's got so much money. And he's basically just living out his kind of like childhood fantasies. And in doing so, yes, he's providing us with lots of information and footage, and that's great. But let's not applaud someone for being like super rich. Because that's kind of what we're doing. We're just applauding someone for having a shit ton of money and spending it on their exploits.
If the dude wants to hire me for something as a music supervisor or working for him, you bet your ass I will jump at that chance. But I'm not going to sit here and be like, he's literally the best filmmaker ever. And I was like, Titanic's fine. Like, I watch it every year. Do I play a drinking game to it? I absolutely do, because I'm an asshole. Like,
oh my God, what's the drinking game?
Oh my God, it's pretty bad. Okay. Anytime that the ship is mentioned as great or grand, you take a drink. You take a shot when you see the boob. You waterfall when Jack floats away into the abyss. You just keep drinking until it disappears. Take a shot if a gun is shown. Take another shot if it's fired. Slam your drink if there's the gunshot wound is self-inflicted. Like, I mean, it's really shitty. It's like not nice. Oh, the reviews that are going to come out now are going to be bad. But this is like the whole point of like my podcast this season, and to your episode that I recently listened to, that there's just like these like Titanic police all over the fucking internet now.
Yep.
And I'm guilty of it at some points. Like the theory about the Olympic pisses me off. Like, I hate it. And when it came out, I was like, there was a video that's on TikTok that is two guys talking about it. And my problem with it is that they present it as fact. And that's what I don't like about it. You can have all the theories you want. I don't care.
Yeah.
But don't present it as if it has been proven. It's been disproven. Like, don't present it like that. So I like stitched it. Stitching, for people who listen to this and don't follow TikTok, is where the original video is in front and your call and response is connected to it. I stitched it with like, no, that's not true. The hate comments I got was wild. Like, the video blew up. The video blew up. It was all over the place. I have like almost 200,000 views on my TikTok, and like for Titanic stuff, like it just exploded. But the hate comments are being like, you dumb bitch, that's why it's a theory. Haven't you ever heard of what a theory is? And I'm like, oh my God, you guys, like, watch the video. You didn't even listen to what I said.
Yeah, and also to say like, oh, it's just a theory, but that could be like, I could say to you, the moon is made of white chocolate. It's a theory, was a fucking dumb theory. Like,
stupid. Yes.
Just saying like, oh, it's just a theory. Yeah, but a theory can be stupid as hell.
Yes.
Like saying, like when Donald Trump was like, oh, if we drink bleach, that might help kill coronavirus. That was also a theory.
If you
but it was
like that, you listen
stupid.
to my podcast, go away.
Honestly, like, so yeah, so trying to justify like the one, like hyperfixate on the word theory, but you're ignoring what the theory is, and like you say, the fact that it has been disproven.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The hate that I got on it was absolutely wild. Like just wild. Or like I posted another one on TikTok that was, most of the ones that I post that are Titanic get like a huge hit. And which is great. And that's why it's like it's so present today in 2022 that like it needs to be talked about, because it's like everybody's talking about it now and everybody's an expert on it now, and it's like can we all just
I've just started to dip my toe in the TikTok pool, to the point where what I'd done is I'd put up some small clips of certain YouTube videos. In fact, one of them, the first ones, weren't Titanic related. It was a response video to some of J.K. Rowling's transphobic tweets. And there were some moments in it that I thought were quite funny, and I thought, people will appreciate this, and I put them up. Because she's talking about men dressing up as women to go into women's toilets and bathrooms and spaces. And basically in the video I was like, this isn't Scooby-Doo. Like, we've not got like men who are going to like rip off their mask, like, I'm actually a man. Like that doesn't happen. Like, so I was putting up those things on TikTok, but then what it was the sound of, I forget her name, but she's on like red carpet and she's talking about her eye makeup, and she's like, I actually did it myself.
Uncle John's, that girl.
And oh my God, it was just, I listened to it and I was like, how can I fit this in Titanic? Like, how can I be like, I actually did it myself? Yeah. And I was like, what if the iceberg was like talking to someone and was like, all the other icebergs were like, you sank Titanic? Check you? And she's like, I actually did it myself. But yeah, like, but it's good because TikTok can be used for good.
Yes.
And it can be used for bad. And definitely, and I think, we'll get into this, but it is misinformation, and people might say, oh, it's not that deep, like the Titanic sank 110 years ago, get over it. But I just think it's important because, especially with like the switch theory, because the switch theory also implies that people were killed on purpose for like insurance.
I know.
And that's awful. That's an awful thing to speculate on and accuse, because it's not true.
Right.
So, if TikTok can be used to try and dispel these rumors, which it's great that you're doing that.
Yeah.
But it's just really shit to hear that people are so not willing to hear it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And like the policing, I mean, to jump into what I heard from your episode about this Facebook group.
Don't.
I was like, wait, there's a Facebook group and I'm not a part of it. But then I was like, I don't use Facebook, so like I'm not even on there anymore. So to sum it up, there is a popular Facebook group. I was cackling when I was listening. There's a Facebook group that is dedicated to the Titanic, but it is specifically the 1912 tragedy and nothing to do with the movie, to the point where I forget which one of your dudes on your podcast signed up, like, and tried to join.
Chandler. Yeah.
Chandler. Okay. Tried to join immediately, and the first fucking question was, you recognize that these are fake characters and nothing about costumes, about blah, 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 will be mentioned of the 1997 film. I was like, the film is not my favorite, but holy shit, man.
I know. Like,
do you lose sleep at night being like, somebody's definitely posting a TikTok or a meme or something about the movie right now and I can't control it? Like,
I don't think she does, because I don't think she sleeps. I think she literally stays, she's like a vampire. She stays awake all day, all night, and just looks at her phone. And you know the worst part of it? This admin, she who shall not be named, my friend Nathan, who I adore, he went onto her actual page and looked at other groups that she's a member of. Yeah. And she's a member of like a cross-stitching community on Facebook.
That checks out.
And
I feel like that absolutely checks out. No offense to my friend Adara, who loves cross-stitching.
The vitriol that this admin brings to the cross-stitching community, like, she could be in an empty room and cancel no one. But she could cancel.
Chair next to her. Fuck you, chair.
Yeah, like, you're banned, chair. You're out.
Like, we accept oak chairs in here, not pine. Out.
Out.
You know what you
It's
did. Just
honestly, like, I don't use Facebook anymore, but I really appreciate it for groups. I think that's where it excels. It's really, really good for groups. But this one particular group, it's like a slow motion train crash. It's just fascinating to watch, because the admins clearly, I mean, one of them, she actually also lives in Scotland, and she's really sweet, and we talk, and she's really nice. Mm-hmm. But she's in a dilemma, because the creator of the group has obviously brought in these admins to manage the group. But you've got one admin in particular, again, who shall not be named, kind of going around setting all these little fires by just posting, just like, it's all about her. You know, she clearly has quite a big ego, whether she knows it or not. And she just stirs the pot. You know, she'll post something, but then they kind of shoot themselves in the foot, because they have these rules of do not do this, do not do that, but then they do it themselves. Yeah. To the point where even the admin that I said that I speak to, who's really nice, was posting for almost the entirety of April a story, the diary of Annie Kerr or something, and quite lengthy posts and lots of engagement. You know, lots of people were liking it, commenting, thinking it was real, but it wasn't. And so people, including myself, you know, because at first I was like, is this real? Like, I've never heard of it. And so I just commented, I was like, is this true or not? And the admin responded and said, all will be revealed at the end of the month. And I was like, that's not cool. And basically what was revealed was it was completely made up. This admin was basically writing a fictional story and was posting it, but with no disclosure or anything to say this is fictional. So you're not allowed to talk about the 1997 film, but the admins are allowed to post completely fabricated stories, which the comments, there were people saying that they had been brought to tears and they couldn't believe what this poor person had to go through, not knowing that the person didn't exist. And that really sent me over the wall, because now there will be people who go forward in life and say, you know, so your scenario of being in a club, you know, there might be someone in a club and says, by the way, did you know that there was this girl called Annie Kerr on Titanic, and she wrote a diary and she went through this and she saw that, and it's not true. Yeah. And again, it's not the end of the world. And, you know, I hope no one listening to this thinks that I think this is like the be all and end all, but it just kind of goes to show that particularly online with Titanic, you've got people, you know, curating these communities and, you know, setting these rules and standards, but they don't seem to be following it themselves. Right. And then when people just innocently want to talk about a film that has done so much for the story of Titanic, you know, good or bad, they're shut down. And I just think it's really odd, but I don't think there's any solution to it, because I've really taken a step back. You can only put out so many fires. And I think you do see people, one person I'm quite close with in particular, I see him comment a lot on these groups, trying to dispel rumors and put things right. And I think, you know, life's only so short. Like, you can't spend your whole life putting out these fires. Like, you've got to disengage eventually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's kind of what I learned too, like reading the comments I was getting on TikTok and that review and stuff. And I was like, why am I so bothered by this? And am I going to let it consume me? I can't, because that's just letting them win. It's just letting them win. And it's just like, it sucks. Like, I think the one thing that like everybody in the Titanic community online and, you know, ever can agree on is that, hopefully agree on, is that the making up of things is not what we want to be doing. Like, that is not what we want to be doing. If you get information wrong and somebody is like, hey, actually, I listened to this. Awesome. You're close, but this is what, and you know, whatever, if we can like talk to each other a little more kindly, we can learn from each other. And like, I've made a ton of friends. Like, you know, I feel like you and I are like, you know, shit talk and stuff in like a fun way over Instagram now. And like, there's Alexandra Titanic. She's traveling on the Queen Mary right now. On the Queen Mary 2, not the real Queen Mary. That one is docked a few minutes from me and is going nowhere. But you know, she's like Marilyn Monroe queen goddess that I like can't wait to talk to. And, you know, Simon, who's amazing. And there's so many really cool people that are part of the community that I feel like we can all, no matter what side of it we're on, of like the movie, the historical accuracy, like we're all still like a part of it. But it is really hard to see those people who are in the Titanic community and consider themselves a prominent part of the Titanic community in like a position of power, like an admin of a very large group, that kind of like make their own set of rules. And that sucks. And it ruins it for a lot of people. And
because it becomes all about them. I mean, this group, I was going to leave it until I realized actually it's hilarious to watch. They post apologies every day. Like, oh, I'm sorry. And it's quite like, you can tell they don't mean it. Like, I'm sorry if what I posted offended people. And it's like, the group's about Titanic. It's not about you. But for some reason, you're making it about you. Like,
that's verbal abuse 101, you know, is like, oh, I'm sorry I made you, I'm sorry if you felt that way. I'm sorry if you felt that way. That's not an apology. That's like, you know, gross. There is definitely, I know a stigma around celebrating the week, that I'm not going to name this person, and I highly doubt that this person listens to my podcast anyways. They also have a podcast and made a post kind of poo-pooing doing that. Was like, I'm not going to do anything because I think it's in bad taste. And I was like, okay, like, I'll understand your perspective from that, but that's kind of like what this community sort of thrives on, is that anniversary and how we all do come together. And there's so many people now in 2022 still remembering this and celebrating the anniversary. And like, I just,
it's like we do it every day of the year. So to then not do it for like a week, what's the point?
What's the point?
You're going to do it for 360 days instead of 365.
You're going to make curated content that you're uploading, that you're making graphics for, that you're doing photos, Instagram posts, hashtags, creating a following, talking about things. But then all of a sudden you're going to turn around and be like, I think this thing is in poor taste. Okay, so then what else is in poor taste, right? Like, you know, later this season, I have a friend that I'm going to talk to about the souvenirs and the merchandise that is sold in the exhibits. And, you know, how the Branson Museum just posted on, I mean, did I want to buy one? Immediately. Do I still want to buy one? 100%. They have like an iced coffee container that has Titanic on it. Like, I want to walk around with my little Titanic ice cubes, like sipping that bitch, like all over the place. Of course I do. But like, do we draw the line anywhere? Like Titanic Monopoly? Like, do we?
I know.
I'm still gonna play that shit. Like, but still, it doesn't like fully sit right with me. But kind of like, I'm kind of at the point where I'm like, fuck it. At least it's around. Like,
yeah.
And if that stuff was out when I was a kid, I would have been thrilled. Like,
Yeah.
I'm still thrilled. I'm, going to be a 31-year-old woman and next month, and I'm already thrilled. Like, at those
even thinking about the models that people buy, and I don't mean like the ones that you build yourself in paint, but like the little plastic one that you put in water, it sinks and it breaks.
Mm-hmm.
That would be like buying like a set, like a plastic toy of like the Twin Towers and like smoke.
I was about to say that, yeah.
So it's like,
and like just like with a baseball bat. Cool.
People love them to the point where you see mums going onto these Titanic groups and they've joined specifically. They're like, hey, I don't know anything about Titanic, but I've got a son or I've got a daughter who's obsessed, and I'm just wondering, where can I buy one of these models that breaks? Because it seems like they're super rare now. And it's because people buy them up. Like Chandler, who we just mentioned, has 2. But,
Chandler, share one with the children.
Share, I want one. But like, should we be playing with a plastic toy that, represents how nearly 1,500 people died? I don't know. But then part of me thinks, the very progressive part of me, the politically correct part of me says no, actually. But then the other part of me that is just quite passive and is just like, if it's not hurting anyone, because it's not. Yeah. If people had been doing it in like 1914, I might have been like, this is wrong. But it's 2022. Like, I don't actually think anyone cares. Right. But still, when these things came out, there would have been people alive that had been on the ship. There would have been women whose dads had died, or whose brothers had died, seeing these toys in shops that break and represent how their dad died.
Right.
And I don't actually think that's cool.
No. And that's why it is very interesting. And that's what I am glad that I'm choosing to talk about with people is like, what is your perspective on this? Like, what is the tea on this? Because it's like, I want one. I want to play with one in a bathtub. 100%. But like, it's not hurting anybody.
And that's it. When we think of, what is the tea? By tea, we mean not only gossip, but I say truth, but I'm kind of, what's happening? What's the story? And it's like,
the truth, the trends,
It's like our story is that we want one of these little models, or we want one of these iced coffee cups, but also that we can see both sides of it. That's the truth. The truth is we think it's cool, we want it, but then the truth is also that it killed people. Yeah. Like, that's the tea. Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's nuance.
Both sides. We recognize both sides. It's not like we're completely blind to it. That's the other thing. It's not like we're like, what do you mean? How is this bad? It's like, no, we see it that we're like, but I want one. Like,
yeah. And I think that's what's missing from a lot of online discourse is the nuance. People are very black and white. It's don't talk about this, or, you can only talk about this. When actually, I said in one of my podcast episodes that I think that, the example you gave on TikTok of these guys talking about the switch theory as if it had been proven, that's wrong. They shouldn't be doing that. But people being able to hash it out and say, for example, on one of the Facebook groups, I saw someone saying, hey, I just watched a documentary about the switch theory. I'd never heard of it, but it sounded plausible. What do you guys know about it? And so rather than people in the comments saying, okay, I can understand why it sounded plausible, but here's why it wasn't. The comments were just full of people like lambasting them and criticizing them and laughing at them and sending like funny gifs. And it's like, that person hasn't been educated on why it's not. And actually, they've just been kind of further put into their little echo chamber, because now they're like, oh, I went into the Titanic community and I was like hounded out of it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's not what we should be doing.
Yeah, that's where that like that gatekeeping aspect of that is like, oh, well, what do you know about it? Like a okay, prove yourself. Are you a fan? Are you a historian? Are you like, why do we have to have a title? Why can't I just be a fucking person who likes the Titanic, knows shit about it, and wants to talk to people about it because it makes me happy?
Yeah.
Like, sorry, a horrible tragedy brings me joy, bring me friends. Like, sorry, like, it's just kind of, that's the way it is. And why are you like down my throat about it? Like, I feel like if you want to flip out about something, like, let's talk climate change. Okay. Like something that's actually affecting us right now. Like it's too much for me. And like the feeling of like, there's a bunch of us obviously that have podcasts, which is cool. And more of them have popped up since I started one. I know when I started it, Time to Talk Titanic existed, and I was nervous. I was like, oh my God, am I going to make this? And whoever runs this podcast going to be like, fuck off. I have a Titanic podcast already. Like, I was nervous.
Really?
Yeah. But you're like, yeah. Okay. So if I go back and I look at like the first Instagram message I sent you, I was like super profesh, and I was like, hi, like I'm starting a podcast and I like want to interview you and blah, blah, blah. And I was really nervous. And like this season I was like, hey bitch, do you want to be on my podcast? Because I was just kind of like, now that you're in the Titanic community and you've seen some of the bullshit that's going on, it's like, okay, all you can do is be yourself and just like calm down. Like nobody's gonna, if people do come at you, call their shit out, because they look ridiculous. But I was nervous that, something was going to happen where your podcast was like, hey, new kid on the block, get out of here. Like, we don't like you. Or like, ew, you're a girl or something.
Do you know, I didn't even know that your podcast had come. I didn't know the order. I didn't know that I was first and then it was. I actually always thought that I had come after you.
You
genuinely.
This was before like a month or two.
Right. Okay.
And then I was creating it, and I was like, I don't think anybody has a Titanic pod. Well, you dumb fucking idiot, Loretta. Of course they do. It's been how many years? Like, I was like, nobody has one. I'm gonna make a pet kid. And I'm a voiceover artist, so I had this like setup and stuff. So I was like, this is easy.
Yeah.
And when I like searched Apple and stuff to like kind of check out the surroundings, yours popped up, and I was like, oh shit. And I was scared, and I like had talked to my boyfriend, and I was like, should I do this? Like, what if they come after me? Like, I was super nervous. Now I don't care. I'm like, fine, I'm just going to mute your comments. Like, I don't care. I got too much other shit to worry about. I can barely pay my rent. Like, gas prices are $6 a gallon. Like, the world is on fire.
After this conversation, like, you'll just block me. You'll be like, I've got what I want, Mum. Done. We're done.
I am the Titanic podcast, like, which is a little bit of shade to another podcast that I have a problem with. We
can discuss that when we stop recording. Recording. Post-recording chat. Yeah,
post-recording chat, because I don't need to make all my enemies today. But yeah, no, I was definitely nervous. And then, there's a couple of podcasts that have popped up after it, and it's a cool feeling. Like, it's like, oh, cool, you have this one or this. And so that's why, like, I think it's fun that some of us are trying to like find like our niche of it. So like, I've removed myself from the historical accuracy part now. Cause I was so scared. I think my first like big conversation one last season was with Simon.
Yeah.
I talked to Adrian and Angelica from the Titanic Memorial Lighthouse. I talked to the education director. Like, I talked to some big name people, and I literally was like on the microphone, like I was like shaking.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do that this season. Like, and I like scheduled like every Sunday at 11:40, like cute or whatever. And I literally was like sobbing at my computer on dinner dates with my boyfriend, being like, I just got to get this edit done, babe. I'm so sorry. And I was like, I can't do that. Like,
no.
I run a television show right now for a soccer team, football team. And like, I run their podcast, I run their show. I've got other stuff going on that I was like, I can't do this. And I think the busyness of life that is going on has helped me to like chill the fuck out. And like, I hope it does that for a lot of other people in the Titanic community, to be like, can you just like do something else.
Yeah.
Something else. Like, do you have other things you care about? Do you have kids? Like, just, like I don't understand. You have cross stitch. Do you think she?
1 second, Loretta. Sorry, one.
Where are you going?
1 second.
Did I offend you?
Yeah, you're blocked.
You're blocked. Oh, puppy. Well, guys, we'll take a short interview break, and I'm going to put more Jameson in my coffee. Just a bit.
There you go, I've returned.
Perfect.
But no, yeah. So I think when you say finding your niche, it's really interesting because I think part of what I was starting to, because there was a bit of a hiatus with my podcast, like quite a bit. You know, Louis, who it was actually his idea to start the podcast because he had joined Instagram. And for anyone listening, my main Instagram page is an art page. You know, I was going to say I'm an artist, but like, you know,
we didn't even fucking introduce you. This is Arron Flanangan. Flanagan?
Yeah.
Flanagan.
Yeah, Flanagan.
Yeah, but listen to how like American Minnesota that sounds. Flanagan.
Flanagan.
Ew.
We love you, Miss Flanagan. But
Miss Flanagan. I love it.
There could be like the diva part of me that's like, bitch, I don't need an introduction. But like,
no, but like that's the other thing too. Like I'm gonna put your name on there and people are gonna be like, yeah, I know who that is. Because you are Titanic, Time to Talk Titanic and Titanic artist.
Yeah, I'm like, I filled those two kind of roles. But like, so I started my Instagram. It was my personal Instagram. But I didn't use Instagram. I didn't see the point of it. I thought there was like no utility in posting like photos with hashtags. I didn't even understand hashtags. It was really weird.
Why were you pound signed in words? I don't understand.
I was like, what? Like, I'm only 26, but I was like such a grandpa. Like, I didn't get it. But then I've been drawing it for years, and I was like, oh, I could post them, you know, onto Instagram. That'd be cool. And because I didn't use my Instagram, I just changed because it was obviously just Arron Flanangan. Mm-hmm. And I deleted all my photos, and then I changed the name to, I think there was like a couple of variations, and then I was like, Titanic artist, that's cool, that works. And it just kind of went from there. But Louis, who he had started his Instagram page, Titanic and Other Liners, like a month before me, or a couple of months. And so he had like loads of followers. And we got chatting, we hit it off straight away. He lives in London, I'm in Scotland. And we had a kind of live stream chat. And he was like, you know, I've always wanted to start a podcast. And I was like, I haven't, but now I do. I was like,
now that you said that.
Yeah, I was like, man, that sounds kind of fun.
Yeah.
So we started it, but this was during lockdown. So this was like kind of mid 2020, when everyone was either learning how to make bread or was starting a podcast.
Right.
Like that's, you know,
I didn't do the bread
because yeah, there's nothing else to do. So and it was fun.
We drank and played Animal Crossing like a lot.
Yeah, to be fair, you know, I had one hand drinking, the other hand making bread, and my mouth was doing the podcast. I was like doing it all, but like just at the same time. But
if you don't make a TikTok about that, I'm gonna need to see that. I want an artist graphic of you doing that, and I'm gonna use it for this episode, which I have to figure out when it's gonna come out. We have to figure that out.
Now that you've said that, I'm gonna do it. But like. He went back to work sooner than I did because I work in education, so I work with like vulnerable kids that need like assistance, and there was a big delay in that obviously. So I'm still at home. Louis went back to work, but I kind of kept the podcast going. But I lost steam, not because he'd left. You know, love you, Louis, but it wasn't because he had left. It was because I was like, what am I doing? I was like, I feel like I'm just regurgitating other people's knowledge. Yeah. You know, actual historians, actual experts, like people that can go on documentaries and be like, I am an expert in Titanic. Like I've got the credentials to say that. I felt like I was just sitting down and recording myself being like, so I mean, I guess, you know, this week I read this and And that's the thing that happened,
Yeah.
Cool. And it wasn't me. That's not me. Me is sitting talking about Kylie Minogue and drinking gin and being a little bit dirty and like,
Calling Thomas
just,
Andrews daddy.
yeah, Daddy Andrews, like
Daddy
Victor
Andrews.
Garber. I'm honestly going to climb him like a tree. Like,
Yeah.
so, so I was like, what can I bring to the Titanic community that isn't there, that doesn't exist? And on YouTube, I listen to a lot of political streamers. So they stream on Twitch, but then obviously they record it and they post it to YouTube as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're talking about like really important things, but they're just people. They're just people in their houses. And, they're like, we're not experts. Like, don't take anything we say at face value. Go and do your own independent research.
Yeah.
But so they're gamers, they're whatever. Some of them maybe work in politics or stuff like that. But it's very funny because they're just people and they have a laugh, but they're talking about things that matter to them and that are important. And I was kind of inspired by that kind of dynamic. And it's like a panel format, so there's like quite a lot of personalities and people on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, I could do something similar, because I was like, they're talking about things that are important. They clearly know a lot about what they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But they acknowledge they're not politicians, they're not lawmakers, they're just people that are passionate about something. And I was like, and that's me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I basically just kind of put the call out. I was like, right, who wants to be a co-host? Like, we talk about Titanic anyway. Who would like to be recorded talking about Titanic, basically? And I wasn't expecting a lot of response. I thought people would be, but that's weird. But like, I got a lot of response, and obviously on my artist page was where I kind of heavily promoted it, and I had to kind of look through. It was a weird process because I had to click on people's profiles and kind of look like, who is this person? Like,
Mm-hmm.
who are they? A lot of the people that I ended up choosing were people that I spoke to anyway, and it was just good that they were willing to be a co-host.
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't expect that, because it's quite a leap to go from messaging stuff. Because some of the people, actually, the co-hosts, I'd never verbally spoken to them. It'd only ever been through messages.
Mm-hmm.
So then to hear them for the first time when we recorded was really great. It was fun.
Yeah.
But so I feel like that is maybe the niche I've taken. And do you know what? If there were people that listened to the podcast in its initial form that now don't listen to it anymore because it's changed, that's fine.
That's fine.
Mm-hmm. My brother always says, because there was a period of time where I kind of changed the Instagram. I put it back to being a personal one, because even with my art, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
there was a lot of pressure, because it felt like when I posted a drawing or anything and it got like negative feedback, I took it really personally.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't coping. It wasn't good. And I had like there was a week where I got like 400 something followers in like 1 week.
Oh.
And it was a lot of pressure. It was huge. So I just put it back to Arron Flanangan, and I was just posting just normal stuff. It was no longer like a Titanic page. And it was only maybe a couple of months ago that I put it back to being an art page. But my brother said, I don't know where he got it from, but he was like, like on a tree, you need to let the dead leaves fall off so that the new ones can grow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I love that.
And I was like, that's so true. So if there are people that don't want to listen to the podcast anymore because now it's become, there's a lot of banter, we're having a laugh, we're still talking about serious things.
Mm-hmm.
But if they don't enjoy that, that's okay.
That's fine.
Because there's going to be more people that do.
Exactly. Well, I mean, and like, when this episode drops too, I'm sure a lot of people are going to listen to it and be like, oh my God, she said motherfucker like 4 times. Or like, or being like, oh, that's my thing she's talking about, or that's whatever. Like, then don't listen. Don't subscribe.
Yeah.
Don't listen. Like, it just choose to be like, nah, that's not for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's what a lot of people on the internet struggle with doing, because they're like, well, it's there, I'm just going to say something. And it's like, yeah, but you know what? You don't have to. You really don't. And
the amount of times, and I'm sure you've done this as well, you'll be typing a comment and then something happens and you just delete it and you move on. You think, is it worth it?
Yeah, exactly. And there are so many times that I was like, on a couple of recent posts that I was like, oh my, no. Like, this is not good for anybody's mental health. It's not good for mine. It's not good for theirs. Like, there's one place that we can get it out, and that's what I'm making this place. Like, spill the tea, get it out, move on, and if you have a problem with it, fine, send a message. I probably won't read it, like, not to be a dick, but I'm just not going to. Like, sorry. I think a lot of the what you said too about like things evolving, like, people should appreciate that a little bit more too, and like, I don't feel like that happens because where do you go from a podcast that is about information that has been regurgitated, like you said? Like, where does that, cool.
Because once that's done,
it only goes the history of it only goes so far. Yep. The only way you're going to get new information that other people don't have already is if your ass goes down there and finds something else. Like, otherwise you have what's already available to everyone else. And why does you saying it over a microphone and on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, whatever, make it better than anybody else's? You are, one of 10 Titanic podcasts. So just, be that and make it your own thing. And if you don't like this Titanic podcast because it is catty and gossipy and the host swears like a sailor and it's offensive to you, then don't listen to me. Like,
exactly.
Bye, Felicia. Like, I don't need that.
And even, with my own, because, I'm gay, I've made a lot of friends who also happen to be gay, and it just so happens that of my co-hosts, we've only got one woman on it, which is fine. I would have liked more. I did really push, I made a separate kind of call for co-hosts, being like, I want women to apply. But we've got Presley, she's amazing, but the rest are men. But it just so happens that quite a lot of us are gay or bisexual. And I was like, that wasn't intentional, but actually I like that, because I feel like sometimes online groups can be very kind of heteronormative, can be a little bit, it's like quite a manly space, talking about ships and engineering and tragedy and death, when actually gay people want to talk about this as well.
Yeah.
And
you don't think there was gay people on the Titanic?
Yeah.
Half of them were running away because they, of course there were. Like,
so then it's like, if my unique selling
like
point,
a Y2K thing, like, hello.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not intentional, but I kind of thought about it. I was like, do you know what? If my podcast becomes the place that gay Titanic enthusiasts gravitate towards because it feels like a safe space for them to listen to and engage, cool. If that becomes my USP, my unique selling point, fine. Like, it wasn't on purpose, but if that's the way it kind of organically kind of gravitates, awesome, cool. But I'm glad that you're taking the approach of you're doing what's going to make you happy.
Yeah.
And people will enjoy listening to it. People, I mean, I'm enjoying just talking to you. I think you're great. I think you're.
We should probably wrap up the episode, but I still want to talk. I still have so much to talk about. I do want to mention, not to interrupt you, but on your episode that I listened to, about the Owl Kitty video.
Oh.
I was like, huh? I looked it up, and then a bunch of people started sending it to me too. When that cat pops its head into the porthole and goes, I lost it. And threw my phone. I thought it was the funniest thing in the entire world. And I don't know who said it on your show, but whoever was like, they could have done the whole thing with the cat and I would have watched it. Like, that's why I was like, me too.
Yeah, Sebastian was 100% right. Like, literally, the cat could have been in the film. Would have made it better, potentially, actually.
It's just the car with the... I think it's one of the funniest videos on the internet ever. Like,
but that's what started this Facebook group that we'd spoken about, saying, do not post about that. That's what kind of brought the vitriol out. Because before that, it was just like any other Titanic group. And then on Valentine's...
edited into the trailer.
Someone shared it, and then all of a sudden, like, they were exposed for being this group that just detests the film. And it's like, really? Like... I don't know. I just think
that is the hill that cross-stitch bitch will die on. Like, that's it. If you listen to this, sorry I called you a bitch, but it's true. Okay.
Kind of true.
And that's Titanic.
People just need to, I think, if anyone takes anything away from this, it's that you and I swear like sailors, and it's great, and we love it. I love that journey for us.
We're kind of sorry we offended you, but like, don't come for us.
Yeah, but like, also not sorry.
Sorry. Come on, Demi. I'm sorry.
But it's like, just, I think people should engage almost like with what we've done. Mm-hmm. Engage with social media in a way that's good for you. And I think try and realize, in fact, one of my co-hosts, he took a bit of a break because I had actually posted something to my story, and he messaged me, and it was quite combative, but we're like friends, so it was strange. It was like, and it was something, it was nothing I had drawn. I shared like a digital render made by someone else of a particular space on the ship. Mm-hmm. And one of my friends, who's now one of my co-hosts, messaged and was like, this is wrong, and went on this like diatribe, and I was like, I don't think it is, but I was like, I can't prove that it's right or wrong, but I was like, I'm sure the person's done their research and wouldn't have put this, it was like a pole on the promenade deck, like in the center of the promenade deck. I was like, I'm sure they wouldn't have put it there if it didn't exist. And this person was just like really like fixated on, they were like quite, and I got the vibe that they're engaging with social media in quite an unhealthy way.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of said, I was like, look, I don't know if there's a poll there or not, and frankly, I don't care. That it is what it is.
Yeah.
And they then were very silent on Instagram and Facebook for a while, and then I reached out to them again, and we spoke, and they actually ended up apologizing, which I didn't expect. I wasn't looking for an apology, but they were like, hey, I'm really sorry about like a couple of weeks ago, like that was weird, but it was good that they had noticed that and that they had checked themselves and were like, right, I need to pull back a bit, because it's also the person that I'd said a while ago that I noticed them commenting on a lot of posts, like dispelling stuff, and you people just need to engage with social media on the level that they can. And even with us, we are engaging with our podcasts now in a much more sustainable way, because we're doing it in a way that's more true to who we are. Yeah. It's more fun. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And it's going to work for people who listen.
I don't want to put you to sleep. I want you to be excited about what we're talking about. I want you to know that, you and I are out here existing and loving Titanic stuff. And I'm, drinking from a Titanic mug, and I wear Titanic t-shirts, and I've got a Titanic tattoo on my arm. Like,
oh my God, that's so cool.
You've never seen that? Yeah, I got the coordinates, and then I did like my friend Bridget from Brooklyn. She designed it for me, and tried to make it look like a the pennies from a museum that you like squish.
Yep.
That's what I tried to have it look like, in honor of like the exhibit that I went to when it first came out. And a lot of people, when they see it, they're like, there is only 3 smokestacks on your tattoo. And I'm like, yeah, I know, because the 4th one didn't work and it was there for aesthetic. And I thought that was a fun little tidbit to put on my skin until I'm dead. Like no one needs that. But But I do have to say that when I get my nails done, which I haven't lately. When I get my nails done, and my nail tech will look over and they look at it, their eyes just go, like, is that the Titanic? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, why do you have that on your arm? And I was like, because I like darkness, like, or I'll like make something up and be like, oh, because one time I had this dream that blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm like, because I like it. Period.
Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
Because I have a fascination with it, because my heart is connected to it somehow. And I don't know why. It just is.
It's really interesting. It's something I've been asked multiple times by multiple people, and it's the one thing that I don't think I'll ever have an answer for till the day I die.
Is why?
Why am I obsessed or interested in Titanic? I don't know. Because it wasn't even the film. I hadn't seen the film until, because it was like, before Netflix, it was, I didn't even have like my own laptop. I was like quite young. But I had heard about the tragedy itself, and I would watch things on YouTube, and this was like early, the early days of YouTube. In fact, I've got like MS Paint animations on YouTube from like 15 plus years ago that I made when I was really young, and they've got like 500,000 views and stuff because they're like so old. And people have just like watched them. Like I was obsessed, but it wasn't because of the film. It was just the tragedy itself.
Yeah.
And then one of my friends had the video, and I borrowed it and I watched it. I mean, I loved it. I thought it was great. I actually don't think I ever gave it back. I think I just like kept the VHS. It was mine now. But so I don't know what it was, because it wasn't the film. For a lot of people, it was the film. A lot of people watched it, and that's what got them hooked. I couldn't put my finger on it, but I love the fact that your tattoo, literally, you've just like disregarded the fourth funnel. Yeah. You're just like, we don't know her. We don't know her.
She's just there. She's invisible. Like, she broke off anyways. Bye.
There was a post on Facebook, and it was someone, it was quite cute actually. They posted onto like a group being like, hey, I just found out that the fourth funnel wasn't real and it was fake. Did you all know that? And I was like, oh, that's kind of cute. But then someone commented like, yeah, it was made of paper mache. It wasn't even real. It was like, and I was like, that's so...
That sounds so mean, but like hilarious.
I was like, that's just fantastic. Because it was like a grown-ass man, like this old man was like, yeah, it was made of paper mache. Did you know
Titanic
that? And I was
trolls. Like, that's what we're calling them. Hashtag Titanic trolls. The people that call people out like that, Titanic trolls. Done. Coin.
I'm going to design like a t-shirt and a mug and everything, and it's just going to be some person being like, by the way, did you know ... Titanic trolls.
Oh my god, yes!
Love it.
Literally design it. My brother prints t-shirts for a living. I will print it and send you one, and I'm dead serious. Are we going to have crossover podcast merch?
I mean, to be honest, this is the best crossover since, like, honestly, I don't even know, like, Avengers, like, Endgame, like, it's just...
This is the best crossover episode. This is the best crossover, and this is will tell you the shit that I watch on TV. This is the best crossover since Seattle, Grey's Anatomy, and whatever the fire one is. The Southern Rhymes shows where they'll be like, what, Seattle Fire, Seattle, since Grey's Anatomy and something Fire. I don't watch the Fire one. But it's like the crossover where it's like, oh, if you want to follow this storyline of Meredith Grey, you have to watch this other show. I'm like, I hate when they do that. So,
that's hilarious.
I forgot what it's called, but you're welcome, Shonda Rhimes.
You're welcome. Shout out.
Okay, I'm gonna stop us recording, and then let's keep chatting. Yay! Great. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for listening to Titanic. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, and leave a review. Your words may be dramatically shared on future episodes. Think you have some tea to share? Head over to the Titanic Instagram @TitanicPod and slip into my DMs, babe. Let's have a chat. Remember to turn on those notifications to know when new episodes of Titanic drop on your podcast listening platform of choice. Get that tea when it's hot.